Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pathways to Sustainability. Um, this is I'm losing count, our third session, and we will have one more session next week. Today, we're going to hear from the Jackson Safer Childbirth Cities Experience and Healthy Start Pittsburgh. They'll be talking about cultivating spaces for birth workers and community advocacy, separate topics. So one cultivating community advocacy, one cultivating spaces for birth workers. We're really glad to be, hosting this series where we get to show off the work of the Safer Childbirth Cities. It really is the work of these community-based organizations, community-rooted organizations that we want to amplify and highlight to you all, and we hope that you've been enjoying the series so far. Next week, we'll conclude the October sessions of this series. We will be hearing from Reach Up Incorporated from Tampa, Florida, and Urban Baby Beginnings, which is doing amazing work in Norfolk. And then you'll see us again in January. We'll have more speakers and topics. We hope that you'll join us then. Okay. And I'm going to kick us off by introducing Tara Shaw, who is the program manager of the Jackson Safer Childbirth Cities Experience. She is a graduate of Mississippi College with a Bachelor of Arts in English, Writing, and Psychology. While in college, she became engulfed in the world of maternal health after experiencing the traumatic birth of her first daughter. She has centered her research and writing on documenting birth stories of those in BIPOC communities. She started her own doula and birth photography business in 2019 and transitioned into community birth work soon after. The fuel behind her work lies in her personal motto of making the world a better place, one brown girl at a time. I am really proud to introduce Tara, and we will load her slides for her. Please give us a second.
All right, so I will go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much, AmChip, for having me and allowing me to speak this afternoon. And so I represent the Jackson Safer Childbirth Experience. We share the vision of fostering local solutions to help cities become safer and more equitable places to give birth. All right, so I want to start off by introducing you all to my team. I grew up in church, and as our pastors would say, I would be remiss if I did not introduce the people who helped me do this job, because it's definitely not a one-woman's job. I lean on these doulas a lot, and they come from different backgrounds. They all have different expertise. The first doula is Miss Rochelle Fields. She's an IBCLLC, Kashana Watts, and also Nashatu Powell. And I think that my director is on the call, Jacinda Roach. She also helps me navigate the program because we have so much going on at one time. All right, so before I tell you all about Jackson Safer, I just want to discuss the organization that we're under, and that's the Mississippi Public Health Institute. We are a public health organization, and we kind of have our hands in everything in Mississippi as it relates to public health. Jackson Safer Childbirth Experience falls under the sector of maternal health, and they've just been doing a lot to lead the advocacy work around health here in Mississippi. All right, so about Jackson Safer, we started at the height of COVID. It was a rough time for everyone. We were all in the trenches, and we have been able to do some amazing work. To date, we've served over 350 families here in the Jackson metro area, and we focus on providing community birth doula services for African-American women here in the Jackson metro area, but that has expanded because we have people out in the Delta of Mississippi, people out on the coast that we've worked with. And so our program has kind of went from us having these objectives that we had on the program, that we had on paper, and then just seeing that explode as people have learned what we are, what we do, and just how important doulas are to families. So we really focus on an individualized approach when it comes to supporting our families, because we realize this is not cookie cutter work. Every family has unique needs, and they're often coming from different backgrounds. And so we try to make our program be a program where we can cater and meet people where they are. So our definition of sustainability, and I feel like it's different depending on who you ask, but we really focus on intentional program designing. Like I mentioned before, we really focus on that individualized approach for our families, while also prioritizing livable wages, accessible resources, and procedures that just make sense to our families and the community. So our challenges to sustainability, I feel like stable funding streams is not something that's foreign to anyone that's here on this call. That's always something that we're going back and forth with, and we're looking forward to as we do some of these things that I'll touch on in a second to help really help us in the funding department. Right now, I can say we have been successfully funded going in towards the new year, but again, that's something that we'll be looking to in the future and trying to get stabilized funding. Organizational characteristics, our program is one that is ever growing here in Mississippi. We are on the slow train, so things here go really, really slow, and doulaing and birth work is still a very new concept. And so there are things in our organization that we still need to work on and fine tune, but it is very hard when we don't have other organizations within our state for us to kind of look to or lean on. And then adaptability. Sometimes it just feels like we're responding to things versus us kind of coming up with procedures where it just makes sense, because there's often a lot of stuff going on. We have families who are dealing with horrible conditions. Some of the things that I've talked about on other presentations, like the water crisis, we don't really have an opportunity to really sit and be strategic about how we're going to address it. Families need things, and we try to get it to them as soon as they need those things. So adaptability is definitely something that we plan to continue to work on and build out as we grow and grow. You can just go to the next slide. So about this project that we came up with when we were granted the opportunity to get this funding, it is something that was placed on my heart because I had been to a lot of conferences. I had seen a lot of people do them, and I was just like, yo, I could create a conference myself. And whoo, child, it has been a lot, but it has definitely been a beautiful opportunity for me to grow closer to my doula team, to find out some people here that are in the community doing some amazing work, and ultimately grow as a manager and someone who works in this space. It's just been a really great learning opportunity. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of. And so with our grant, we decided that we would host a conference specifically for birth workers. I've been to a zillion conferences centered on doctors, on nurses, but I've never really been to a birth workers conference specifically here in Mississippi where we have birth workers on the stage. They're the people being celebrated. They're the people who are bringing up ideas that could actually help and benefit them. And so our heart for this conference is for us to move towards creating a self-governing or birth worker-led organizations. We want to start the conversations of how this would look, because back in last year, legislation is also something that kind of drove this for me, because we were at a crossroad specifically with our CPMs. And if you're not familiar with that, that's certified professional midwives. They were at the point with legislation last year that they were about to outlaw that completely. I worked very closely with midwives, and it was something near and dear to my heart because I knew that I one day wanted to have a home birth, but also these are just some amazing women. And if they would have outlawed this, it would have made it illegal for them to do the work that they did. And so we're kind of at the point where it's just like birth workers need to start making some of those decisions about how this work is going to look long term. And this is kind of where this conference comes in, because yes, we want to have fun. We want to do all of the things, but more specifically, we want to start talking about how would it look if we created an actual association. We did something where birth workers were at the forefronts of the conversations to see how this would look. And then also just that community aspect, we are big in that. We always talk about it takes a village, but while also acknowledging that we don't have a village here. Often we are all working in silos. We're working with our heads down because we're just trying to make ends meet. We're trying to do all the things for our families. And so we kind of miss out, and then we burn out. The burnout rates for doulas, birth workers is really, really high because often we're not working together, because I believe we're not having the conversations that we should be having in order to figure out how can we go from this person having this person having a business, that person having a business, versus kind of creating this organization where we can all kind of come together and use our talents, our skills, and our resources to make a bigger impact. So measuring success, I wanted to keep the evaluation and our measurements for this really, really simple because our conference is happening on November 10th, which is Veterans Day. I did not have a clue that this was going on when I first sat down. I was just like, I know I want to do a conference, and what do you all have available? And so I knew once I found out that it was Veterans Day that I was asking people who are often very, very thin when it comes to responding and wanting to be speakers and comes to things. And so we decided that we were going to create a quick questionnaire for people to complete while they were there at the conference, because often we are wearing multiple hats. Myself, I am the doula, I am the manager, I am the transportation, I am all of these things. So sometimes when it comes to completing extra paperwork, it just feels like another job. And we definitely wanted to make sure that we were capturing what had happened for analysis and things like that. But also we just wanted to meet our birth workers where they were, and understanding that for them, sometimes this can just feel like an extra job when we just want them to come together and actually have a good time. What do we hope to gain after this sustainability project? So the first thing is just a clear vision of how to build a birth worker workforce that is birth worker led and sustainable. Again, that's not something that we have here in Mississippi, and that's not for me to talk down on the state that I'm in, because I am so Mississippi, but also I feel like that's a great opportunity for us to create something. That is a great opportunity for us to be in some of these spaces at these tables deciding how birth work will look, and not just birth work, but maternal health in general. Because oftentimes I found as we've done this work, a lot of things trickle down to us because we're the people spending the most time with these families. So as organizations and as huge public health organizations, we're often making these decisions for our community. And yes, it looks beautiful on paper, but when we go out to do it with our communities are just like, this is not something we asked for, nor is it something that we need. And so we have to start back at square one. So coming up with something where we're intentional about how this would look, how this would work, how do we come up with great procedures to make sure everyone's needs would be met, is something that we definitely want to address, and that we've talked to all of our speakers, our vendors, and our panelists about when we're addressing and coming at this conference. And then just celebrating the role for birth workers contributing to families. People have been asking us a lot about what it is that we do, and oftentimes we are finding that we're being brought into the conversations, but it's not because it's like organizations want to work with us. It's sort of kind of like they want to take information from us and then go create something. And so that's very, very disheartening when you know that you're out here doing the work and you're doing it 24/7, and oftentimes you don't have anyone to lean on. You're all the things that a huge department or organization would have. And then a deeper understanding of how to work more collaboratively together amongst each other, because we aren't working together. We have birth workers often creating the same things from the top of Mississippi to the bottom of Mississippi. And if we came together and we understood what we would be doing, it would be no need for us to reinvent the wheel. It would just be a measure of, if I know I'm doing this and you're doing that, I could just send you over to this particular person to minimize burnout and to make sure that you're getting your needs met. There is no reason for a doula or a midwife or a lactation professional to feel like there is some competition, but often we don't understand the scope of work that we all are doing. And so that kind of does bring in some negative aspects like that competition. And then lastly, recognizing and connecting what we as birth workers have available within our own communities. We are a community by itself. And so we all need to get to a point where we know what each other, what we're doing. There are registries for doulas here in Mississippi, but collectively we aren't working together as effectively as we should be working. And I just wanted to take some time to show you all the documentary, a short intro of the documentary that we created specifically for people here in Mississippi, because we thought, I see one of the questions, and I think we're supposed to be answering the questions at the end. And if I'm talking fast, it is my Mississippi twang and the fact that I have a little one pressing on all of my organs right now. But I wanted to show you all just an intro of the documentary that we created, because we thought last year that our program was going to end. And so I was just like, what can I do to show people here in Mississippi that doulas are here and we have a lot to say? And so if you could play just the intro, that would be great. Can you all hear it?
No.
Okay. So I'm not in control of my slides. I'm still not sure if folks can hear it because I
I was a
definitely
little
can't hear it on
nervous.
my end.
It's my first pregnancy, first baby. And then, with health, women have miscarriages or lose or die during, labor. And there was a thought for me. And I was just like, oh, hope that doesn't happen. Or, what can I do not to put myself in that type of situation?
It's not uncommon to hear birth trauma stories, but just in your energy and what you were actually looking forward to, what you were actually needing was just support.
People don't know childbirthing is a life and death situation. You be happy to make it out on the other end, but like we know there's so many women that are dying, and I just wanted to see my baby out healthy as well as me be able to make it out healthy. So I get a little emotional when I think about it because I'm very thankful.
The entirety of the United States were facing a Black maternal health crisis, and particularly in Mississippi. We know that Mississippi has the highest infant mortality rate in the country. It has the highest preterm birth rate in the country and among the highest rates of maternal mortality. And for all of those statistics, plus really all health statistics, Black people fare worse here in Mississippi. This is a result of our long-standing history of structural racism that still shows up in many ways in medical care, in public health, and in health in general.
One of the biggest issues that Black mothers and babies face is being seen and being heard within the medical community. In every role of a doula, we're there for support, we're there for resources.
Women need support throughout their pregnancy, and they need someone that understands what they are going through so they can assist them through navigating that precious time in their life.
Yes, so I saw some of the comments coming up at the bottom, and like I previously stated, we created this documentary with the intentions that we would not have the program continuing, but thankfully that the program is still continuing, and I pray that it's going to continue to keep growing because each lady in this documentary came from so many different things, and they generational impact. And I'm just emotional because I've been to these women's houses, I've sat beside them, and the lady that you all saw crying, she almost died. And so I've held her hand, and we have collectively women here in Mississippi who have all been met with, I feel like, the full circle of life, and we're still functioning. We're still trying to figure out how can we make this a bigger thing? How can we get people to pay attention to the work that we're doing? Because obviously it is working, because we see that when people work with not just doulas but birth workers, they have better outcomes. And I don't know what more do people want us to say, how much research needs to come out, but this work is working. And so I really, really want people to have a deeper understanding and to celebrate the role. And we're hoping that this conference becomes something that is bigger and bigger as we do it, because there are some people just doing some amazing work, making generational impacts. Because if we had lost one of those mothers or one mother in our program, that means that is a mother who has left behind a child, a mother who has left behind a mother, a mother who has left behind a father. Like, all of these things would be left. And so I'm very, very proud of the documentary. I'm proud of the conference, and I'm proud of the women that we get to celebrate who are doing this work. So in conclusion, some external factors, of course, is political. We're at a pivotal stage here in Mississippi where people are just like, we know that they're here. What do we do with them? And I really want doulas to lead this conversation to come up with solutions that make sense for them, because they have been doing it and will continue to do it, even if it's not something that's specifically addressed. People are still going out here, and we want to make sure as people are doing this work that they're doing this in a way that's safe. And socially, I think we're kind of getting from the point where people are just like, I don't know what you do. Do you catch the baby? We've been spending a lot of time going to baby showers and just really educating on our community, I think for the last 3 years, about what it is that doulas do specifically. And so people are just like, okay, I'm beyond that point. How do I get this? And now they're demanding this from their doctors. They're demanding this from some of the people in Medicaid and all of these people who are funding insurance to say, this is something that I want. So socially, we kind of see that shift where there's kind of no need to do the education, which is still important, but people are kind of more accepting, specifically families, more accepting of doulas and actually want to invite us in the space. And economically, this is a time where people are talking about maternal health, and we see more organizations popping up here in our state, and no one still is kind of doing it intentionally. They're just, we want to create a doula program. We want to do all of these things, but I feel like there's a better way for us to do it to make sure that we're really supporting and everyone is getting what they need. What would accelerate our success? So support from established organizations. The way I tell people is, we could tell people all day until they're blue in the face that this is something that they need, but it's like your grandma, your mama tell you something, this is something that you need. But if you have like a celebrity or someone who has a big backing telling you that this is something that you need, that kind of puts some force behind it and kind of gives you more credibility. And so I would love some more established public health organizations here in the state, our state in general, backing the work that we're doing, because more and more people would be like, okay, maybe this is something that I need. And then as they come up and as they rise, supporting the work that we do, acknowledging that we come from an entire different world. A lot of people, myself included, did not intend to get into this work. I thought I would be working with Japanese students. I'm an English writing major. This made no sense. And I was brought to this work because of my daughter. And oftentimes, most of us don't have any degree in public health or maternal health. And so we're coming to this work because we were led to this work, or we went through a traumatic experience ourselves and we just want to change the world. So we can talk about how we want to create these different associations and things like that. But if we don't have the business standing or knowing how a nonprofit works in order to create a standalone program, we're going to be back at square one. So them coming alongside us and saying, okay, well, we understand that we're a doctor, we're a nurse, we work in the traditional medical system, but we want to help you all because it is not competition. We want to bridge the gap. If a mom wants to do it, let's come up with the best way in order to create that. And if we had one specific place where people could come in and pull doulas and pull the resources and things that we have, it could make sure that every family has exactly what they need when they need it. And we're not just talking about when they get pregnant. They should start talking to people as soon as they decide, like, hey, this is something that I want to do, because some families are making preparations for that very early on. And so if we started giving them the information before they were even pregnant, that would be setting some of our families up for success and really working on that preventative health that we always talk about. And so it is really, really on my heart for this to become state recognized and an essential part of maternal health here in Mississippi, because we need it. Our doulas, birth workers, are able to often go into these communities and sit with these families when they don't have access, when they don't have transportation. So I just want to close this with a quote from one of my faves. He's a rapper. He's also a poet, Tupac. He stated, I may not be able to change the world, but I do want to be the spark that impacts the brain that will change the world. It just blows me away, all that I've learned while I've done this work, all the many great people and all of the great things that I'm learning. So I thank all of you all for listening to me today as I talk about the program and I talk about the work that we do, because I'm super proud, and it's just tremendous when I see these families, and when I see some of the women, they're just like, I'm pregnant again. I want to do it. How do I do it? And I hate when we're kind of in a place where we're trying to figure out where's the funding, because I have to tell them to hold on. We want to see people like, I had a great experience. I want to come back. So thank you all so much.